Hey guys, this is BiXX. Welcome to another Mentoring Monday. Today I'm going to continue my 3-part series on imposter syndrome. This is part 2. This is a very important topic because over 70% of the people experience imposter syndrome sometime during their life. In part 1, I asked 2 important questions to help explain imposter syndrome. 1, do you ever find yourself consistently experiencing self-doubt, even in the areas that you typically excel? And 2, do you often feel like a phony or a fake in spite of all your accomplishments? If you answered yes to one or both of these 2 questions, you've experienced imposter syndrome. In part 1, I talked about the 5 types of imposter syndrome: the perfectionist, the expert, the natural genius, the soloist, and the superperson. Personally, I suffer from both the perfectionist and the superperson. Check out the part 1 video if you've not seen it, because it's an important video to help you better understand part 2. So what is the impact of imposter syndrome? For some people, imposter syndrome can fuel motivation to achieve. But this usually comes at the cost of experiencing anxiety. You might over-prepare or work harder than necessary, for instance, to make sure nobody finds out you're a fraud. And eventually, the anxiety worsens. This sets up a vicious cycle in which you think the only reason you survived, for example, that class presentation, was that you stayed up all night rehearsing, or you think the only reason you got through that party or family gathering that you memorized, this is a little extreme, all the details about all the guests so you'd have great ideas for small talk. By the way, I despise small talk at parties because it just wastes time, but that's another topic. Maybe I'll do another one on small talk. These are all characteristics of superperson syndrome. How do I know this? Well, when I first started playing gigs, I always practiced too much. I actually told myself the only reason I made it through that gig because I practiced every single transition perfectly and actually committed all of them to memory. How crazy is that? The problem with imposter syndrome is that the experiencing of doing well is something that does nothing to change your beliefs. The thought still nags in your head. What gives me the right to be here? The more you accomplish, the more you feel like a fraud. So when I was playing gigs, if I had one little tiny mess up that nobody noticed, I wasn't happy with my gig because I messed up once, whatever, it's just ridiculous thinking in your head. So again, the more you accomplish, the more you feel like a fraud. It is though you can't internalize your experience of success because imposter syndrome eats at you from the inside out, often with no outward signs of struggle. This makes it all the more important to recognize what's going on and taking the steps to recognize these feelings. Otherwise, your feelings of incompetence may prevent you from pursuing a professional goal that might actually be right for you, which could lead to more regret and negative self-talk. I struggled for at least 4 years whether I should start my own company or not. I had such negative self-talk and self-sabotaging my vision for what I wanted to do. It was actually a great vision. What if I fail? What if this and what if that? I need a few more years. When will I be ready? Once I got over the hardest part, the first year, and I started to achieve some success and some growth, I asked myself, what took me so long? This is awesome. Building something that is mine and helps other people who grow with me is so rewarding. I learned that if I was great working for somebody else, I could be even better working for myself because of what I'm building is mine and not somebody else's. To better understand what imposter syndrome is, what does this look like in everyday life? You've been working in a certain role for a few months. But when people call you by your new formal title, you feel like it's a fraud because you feel like you haven't yet mastered the position. Another example is you started your own business. However, you don't like to promote yourself because you don't have the same level of experience and expertise as other more experienced peers in your field. You feel like a fraud. I remember this when I started my own business. And I even got nominated for an award. But I sort of felt like an imposter because the achievements were not good enough to warrant the nomination, when actually they were. So what causes imposter syndrome? Here's a few things. Family upbringing. Research suggests that upbringing and family dynamics play an important role in imposter syndrome. Specifically, parenting styles characterized by being controlling or overprotective, or that feeling of you not being good enough. For example, you may have come from a family that valued high achievement, or you may have had parents that flip back and forth between offering praise and being critical. Studies suggest that people who've come from families with low levels of support may be more likely to experience imposter syndrome. So it's important that you think about your family upbringing, because that's really determines so many of our behaviors as adults. In my case, my family had very high levels of achievement and they were valued. So I learned to work very hard all the time to please my parents. I rarely took a break. This is when I developed superperson syndrome. Another example is new work or new school opportunities can also cause imposter syndrome. For example, starting college might leave you feeling you don't belong and you're not capable. This particularly happens your freshman year. You might experience the same feelings starting a new job at work. I always felt imposter syndrome when I started a new job. Kind of silly, I felt like I had to prove myself, as if I did not prove myself in the interview process or past accomplishments on my resume. I learned this was normal when starting a new job. I told myself this learning curve period is what I called the hell period. There's just no way around it. I would experience this for 6 to 12 months, and then I'd get back to feeling confident again. It's just part of the process. So guess what? Love the process. Imposter syndrome seems to be more common when people are going through these types of transitions and trying new things. The pressure to achieve and succeed, combined with a lack of experience and knowledge, can trigger feelings of inadequacy in new roles and settings. This is also the period of the greatest learning part of your life, when you feel like a student again. So that concludes part 2 of imposter syndrome. Please join me in 2 weeks when I finish this 3-part topic on imposter syndrome. One more thing, I wanted to wish all of you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoy your family during this wonderful time of year, this time of appreciation. And I hope you appreciate this beautiful Christmas holiday season setting that my wife created, and I certainly am. So happy holidays to everybody. And remember, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. Cheers.